Welcome to Sports Week here on STV. Delighted to have your company on the extended programme on a Friday evening. The main talking points on tonight's programme: the road to Russia starts here for Scotland at the weekend in Malta. We will try and pick what we think might be Gordon Strachan's starting 11. Mark Warburton hopes to have Martin Waghorn and Philippe Senderos ready for Celtic next weekend for the first Old Firm derby of the season. We'll also look at tomorrow's Iron Brew Cup matches and assess whether there's another major on the cards for Andy Murray in tennis at the US Open. It'll all be done in the company of Alan Ruff and the Herald's Hugh MacDonald. Lots of other football issues we'll be talking about, and I feel as if this could be a feisty one today, Ruffy. There's an edge to the show. There's a tension in the studio. Have you sensed that yourself?
Well, I did sense it when I come in. I've come in a wee bit later than used to, but you seem to be really having a go at each other, so it'll be really interesting to see whether you have any professionalism at all to let it go until the end of the show, or whether you're just going to have a go at each other.
Who needs professionalism? That's all I can say on this programme. Anyway, lots to talk about. Road to Russia, tremendously exciting. Russell Martin says we should have a go, be positive about it, Hugh, and we've got Matt Ritchie saying this is the real chance. Get a good start to the campaign and see where it takes us. We should be inspired by Wales, he says.
All good words, but it's a time for action, and 3 points tomorrow. Not just, it's absolute necessity you come away with this. And the worry from Malta is not that they're a quality team or they're a good team, but they're a team that doesn't lose by very many. They lose games, but not by very many. The problem with Scotland is where the goal's going to come from. I would like Gordon Strachan to be very bold. I'd like him to play, a very bold attacking team, but I don't know if he will. And he's also been robbed of Griffiths just at a time when Griffiths has become a kind of talisman for Scotland.
Yeah. Can you understand the furore over Ross McCormack? It's one of those things where, listen, we're all pundits, fans want to pick the team, journalists want to pick the team, former players want to pick the team. Gordon Strachan has to stay focused on what he thinks about his system and the type of players. Ross McCormack is not part of that plan at the moment, Ruffy.
No, he isn't. I personally think it's a wee bit deeper than that. It's a wee bit deeper than footballing matters. I think he's called off a few squads, and some managers don't really like that. I think there's something maybe happening behind the scenes, but
Hold on a minute. This is a guy who didn't want to go to his own stag do to come to a Scotland camp.
Yeah, but he's called off.
What more loyalty do you want than that?
No, he's called off a few squads. I think when he was asked, that in the football side, there's no doubt about it. I would have him there. I would have him in the team. He's a goal scorer. Like Hugh, I would like to see 2 strikers playing tomorrow night. I think, Sunday. Yeah. It remains to be seen, whether that's the case. But I think we really need to start setting my stall out and frightening people, and going away to Malta and winning 1-0 would be great for 3 points, but going away and winning 4-0 would make other people in the group sit up and take heed.
Well, before we actually get to whether we're going to get a win by 1, 2, 3 or 4, when someone makes a statement, Hugh, and your ears prick up like mine in a press conference, he said there's something more to it. That suggests to me he knows there's something more to it. Or are you taking a stab in the dark at that, Ruffy?
No, I'm just saying, when you look at Jordan Rhodes, or you look at McCormack, you look at Lee Griffiths, now a lot of the decisions will be footballing, but sometimes they're not all footballing. There are people, managers who think about players who come into a squad and might, I'm not saying McCormack's one of these, but they have to assess the whole situation. Will they mix with the squad? Will they be good in the squad? Will they be a good environment? Will they be healthy at training? And I'm not saying he comes into that, but these are the kind of things that the manager has to look at. I just think that Gordon Strachan felt he was let down a couple of times.
Yeah. Do you know that for a fact?
Yeah, somebody's told me that, yeah.
Okay. So...
It was his missus.
Suddenly we got there. Honestly, there are times when you have to drag it out of him.
Usually just to get name, rank and serial number out of him.
Absolutely. And by the way, you're not alone. I can remember someone actually breaking a news story 25 minutes into a radio programme that I was hosting, and most of the pundits fell off the chair. It should have been tops. So you reckon that he's just not fitting in. I'll cut you some slack on this, Ruffy, on this one, which is quite simply, having spoken to Gordon Strachan, knowing him and the way he operates, he does indeed, as Robbie mentioned, and rightly so, he does indeed like the whole package. He likes a player to come in. He likes players not to go into little cliques. He likes them to have a tremendous work rate. The personality's got to mix. They've got to have a willingness to be part of the team ethos. And of course, he also has to pick players that fits into this system that he wants to play.
Yeah, and by the way, he's a very difficult man to change his mind, you know, and he's not alone in that in football management. But if you look at it, it's not just Ross McCormick. Justin Rhodes binned without giving too many chances on the park. Scott Arfield, playing in the English Premier League, never tried. Canada now want him. You know, Gordon's made decisions in personnel, and he's not a man that bends on it, and a man that has to be, especially with young players as well. He's got to be kind of dragged to the trough rather than drinking willingly. I mean, he's not a guy that will try out young guys. And I think the crucial thing this week, for example, against Malta, would be that some managers would say, right, we're going to have pace. Well, this team's going to park the bus. We're going to have pace. We're going to have to go all out. Now, all right, let's give this guy Burt the first hour, you know, because he's lightning, you know.
Yeah.
He's just on the back of a big move. Liverpool have come out today and said, oh, we wanted to sign him, blah, de blah. What do we think the chances are of Gordon Strachan starting with Burke? I wouldn't put much money on it.
What do you think? Watt will get in ahead of him?
No, and Burke. I think. I'm going to pick a 4. I mean, in the 4-5-1 or a 4-4-2. I just don't think I don't think Tony Watt will play.
Starting 11.
My starting 11 would be a 4-4-2, and it'd be Marshall in goal. Back 4 are Patterson, Martin, Hanley, and Robertson. Though I think Strachan might pick Hutton, and then my middle 4 would be Ritchie, Fletcher, Morrison, and Snodgrass, and Naismith and Fletcher up front.
Yeah, let me tell you that sometimes the driving force for Gordon is quite simply that he looks at players that can play at a certain level. He looks at players that are regularly playing at a level who stand out in the training because they're playing against better players every week. That's his driving force. Now, if that's a blind side not to unleash an Oliver Burke, I mean, I'm not being his defence lawyer. He stands or falls by his results, but that's what he does. He shows a tremendous amount of loyalty.
See, the thing is, he doesn't stand or fall by his results. You know,
well, he does.
He stands. He's not been falling. I mean, this is a guy who couldn't win in Georgia, right? He couldn't even get a draw in Georgia, so he's not standing and falling in results. He's finished 4th in a qualifying group, and the SFA president has come out and said not only should he be in charge of the road to this World Cup, he should be in charge of the next campaign as well.
Did you think he should have been bulleted?
Personally, I think there should have been a real debrief on just what went wrong in that group. We finished 4th in a group where the management team told us we were going to qualify from that group.
What makes you think there wasn't a debrief?
Because immediately after the Gibraltar game, they said, we want Gordon to stay. Where there should have been a period of said, we'll have a debrief on this, we'll interview everybody, and we'll see where we're going.
Yeah,
Before the end of the campaign, he was in place for the next campaign.
Yeah, listen, if there was somebody
Where's
else...
the debrief there?
If there was somebody else...
Oh, I don't give him to somebody else.
Well, wait a minute.
So he's the only manager in the world that can manage Scotland?
I didn't want him sacked after it. I'll be blunt with you, I didn't want him sacked after it, but what I'm saying to you is, if there was if I do believe there would have been a debrief on what happened, what went wrong, and a plan from Gordon on the way forward, there's bound to have been a meeting to suggest that. But the other thing about it as well is, they've looked at that situation. Gordon Strachan's looked at the campaign, said to them, I want to go on. You're saying he won't stand or fall by his results. He will. He could be out of a job by 11th of November.
Aye, probably because that's in the future. In the past, he has not stood or failed by his results. That's a fact.
So you would have replaced him?
I would have had a serious debrief, and it was up to me. I'd have been asking him pertinent questions about what went on in the Georgia game, because this Scotland campaign, the last one, was an absolute failure.
I'm not debating that. I'm asking you a question. You've
yeah, me personally, I'd have looked around for other candidates. Yeah.
Yep, you would have sacked him.
I'd have been looking around for other candidates.
That's not the answer.
I know. I don't know, because I would have to have looked. I'd have to have the full debrief, see what went wrong. He might have had valid reasons for what went wrong. He's not given them in the press, but he might have in the debrief. But I would have been minded to sack him.
Yeah, minded, but not.
It's all facts.
Okay then.
But I wouldn't have been minded to say to him, Gordon, not only are you going to take us to Russia, but even if we don't get to Russia as the SAV president, you can get the next campaign as well. I wouldn't have been minded to do that.
I don't think the next campaign's on the table, but that's for another argument in the next part of the programme. I can't wait, fantastic. And we'll possibly bring Ruffy into this argument as well, because he is on the show. Join us after the break for more fighting. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Sports Week. Alan Ruff is alongside me, Peter Martin, and on this extended programme every Friday, we're delighted to have Hugh MacDonald of the Herald. You may well have seen him on other programmes, on other media outlets, where he gets a much easier ride than he's getting on here today. Let me tell you, the battle's commenced. He's picked his team. Ruffy, have you got a team written down that agrees with you? Because
near enough. You know, I really do hope that he'll go with two strikers. That remains to be seen. Obviously, Marshall in goal. I think he'll go for Hutton, Martin, Hanley, Robertson, Ritchie and Snodgrass wide, Morrison in the middle with Fletcher. I'm leaving a circle in the next one. I would like to see the wee boy McGinn getting a game. I'd like to see him taking a chance. Up front, I would like to think he would go with Fletcher, but I think he might go with Martin. I think Martin's the guy who might be able to hold the ball up and bring the midfielders into the game.
Yeah, see, I would like him to give McGinn the run. Now, I'd like to see Burke in there as well, Hugh, but I'd like to see McGinn because I think he has the energy and he typifies what a Gordon Strachan player's all about. Yeah,
but there's only probably there's probably only one position up for grabs if you're talking sort of central midfield, because you've got to play wide men, and you're talking about maybe McGinn or Morrison. I wouldn't make a big strong argument against, for or against either of them. I wouldn't, because Fletcher's got to play because he's the captain.
It is Malta though.
I know. But I still don't. I mean, I'm picking 4-4-2, and I would love Gordon to have that. I'd love Gordon to go 4-3-3. I'd love for him to be putting the pressure on Malta.
Yeah. Well, the suggestion from the camp, certainly on the interviews this week, is there seems to be a more positive attitude that they're going to actually try and grab the bull by the horns. They're going to try and attack. I mean, I'm listening to Michael O'Neill, the Northern Ireland manager, saying, the campaign for them and very much for Scotland as well must be to get a really good start. Malta, Lithuania, Slovakia, 3 good games, 9 points suddenly. You're brimming with confidence when you get ready to go down to Wembley.
Yeah, I wouldn't go as far as the 9 points. 6 points for me over 2 games would be enough to build on and get everybody back on board. Because I think we lost a wee bit of the feel-good factor at the end of that. I agree with you to a certain extent. I thought the carry on over in Gibraltar, going behind the goals and taking photographs with the supporters when you've just been knocked out of a tournament. I didn't get that. I get it for the supporters who are there. Let's go and say thank you. I get that, but
I didn't get it for the supporters.
But from a football point of view, I didn't get it. If you ask anybody in the game, if you fail in something you're supposed to achieve, there's no celebrating gets done. You just get off the park, go down the tunnel and regroup for the next one.
Well, let's cut to the chase with you. Did you want him replaced?
No, I thought we were a better side with him. I think if you looked at the group, I think we did well against Poland. We did well against the Republic of Ireland. We failed, as Hugh said, in Georgia. But I think on the whole, we were playing better football. I just feel as if, because of what happened in the last campaign, we need to show we're better than that. And right away, the team's under pressure. The team, fortunately, we've got Malta. If it had been one of the bigger sides in the first game and we lost it, I feel that feel-good factor might be very hard to get back.
Yeah, I'm going to be blunt here, and I must apologise to some Scotland fans who'll be well peeved with my opinion on this, but we have a generation of Scotland fans who actually just can put up with failure, celebrate it, go out, bevy, have a holiday, and if they get cuffed, they don't care. They just keep singing silly songs.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly in Gibraltar. I mean, Alan will know. Alan's of a generation where you qualify for World Cups, right? And you went to World Cups, and you beat Holland in World Cups, and you got slaughtered. Oh, you get slaughtered still.
Yeah, well, let me give you the scenario of that particular campaign. We beat Holland in the last game, who get the final. And Ali McLeod says, "Come on, we'll go down to the supporters and say cheerio and we'll take photos." We'll get hung.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You get absolutely hung, you get slaughtered.
Yeah.
You just
You finished
get off.
fourth in a group.
Yeah.
And you take a bow.
Hey, you don't need to. You
Not for me, I'm sorry.
I'm not. I'm not over. I'm not overly upset with flag waving people, all that. Ronnie roars, call it what you will. That doesn't bother me. It's all about the results. It's all about improvement. I think there's been a vast improvement in the Scotland squad with him at the helm. I like him. I like the way he puts his team together. I like him as a person. I'm still behind him, but I know that there will come a point when I will probably have to say, if it's not going well, no, I'm sorry, Gordon, it's time to go. I hope I'm saying, Gordon, Mark, Andy Watson, we're almost there. I really want that.
Everybody wants that. I mean, that's. I mean, I'm a generation where we went to major tournaments, and I think it's so crucial to the good of the game. It just seeps through the whole game. Going. I mean, you saw what happened in Northern Ireland and Wales when they got there. I mean, I'm desperate, and part of my strong criticism is that I thought there was an opportunity in the last tournament to qualify. This was an opportunity. This was a tournament where half the countries in the whole federation were invited to this competition, and we weren't one of them.
Well, there's no point going back over it. We didn't make it. We're now looking at Malta, Lithuania, Slovakia. He wants 6 points. I think 9.
What?
I want 9. I want 9. I want 9. I want 9.
Is the third game away from home?
Slovakia.
Yes.
It's away.
Yeah.
It's away. Let's go for 7.
No, we probably will have to go for 7. I really would like. I'm just saying to you. I'm not saying I think that's achievable. I'm saying I'd love 9 to go before you hit England, because I think Scotland's best hope is second at a push.
Well, yeah,
second. That's it. That's what you're going for.
It's going to be a big shove to get second. I mean, Slovakia are a higher rated team than us.
Well, absolutely.
So, but I mean,
listen, let's not go with FIFA rankings.
No, well, but let's go with the fact that they did get to major championships and we didn't.
Well, absolutely. But
So I think he's got to get 6 out of the 9 or he's in real trouble.
Remember, by the way,
we're
FIFA rankings, Holland didn't get to a championship, and they're ranked higher than us. So rankings, it's all about the progression, the team getting it together.
But what Gordon has done is he's proved that he has a team, and with the formation and the way he works, away from home we can take points off people. What to me he has to do now is when we're at home, I don't care who we're playing, whether it's England, whoever, it's 3 points. We have to go into the game focused and play the players, attacking players, no sitting midfielders. Don't care whether it's England or whoever it is, they're at Hampden with the support behind them. Have a go. And if you have a go and we get beat, well, I'll accept that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it'll be interesting to see how England start to play their football under Sam Allardyce as well. That's going to be a really interesting conundrum, because by the time we get to Wembley, you never know. You never know. They're an unforgiving press down there as well. Things could be going pear-shaped for England by November. If you're to believe the hype and the reality of that Premiership, it'll be interesting this year to see 32% of home-based players were getting a game in the first quarter of last season in England, and it was dropping by each transfer window. So it'll be interesting.
So really, in reality, we could have 12 points.
So that's the 12 points for Christmas. It's all over. It's all over Christmas.
Can I tell you something? If we have 12 points on the 12th of November, I'm bringing you in, even if it's not a Friday, and I'm going to sit Gordon Strachan there and say, you'll never believe what he said back in September.
I think the thing about England, though, and I agree that it could all go pear-shaped for them, England is, again, looking at facts.
Yes.
England, OK, do not play well in finals, but they are consistently brilliant qualifiers.
Yes.
Brilliant qualifiers. Well, not just good qualifiers, like 100% record in the last group.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I'm not going to defend England. I'm hoping that something gives. Let's look at the Scotland squad then. Just in case he has to switch it, change it, tweak it. This is the squad that he has at his disposal, and of course we know the goalkeepers. I think as far as the forwards are concerned, I think there's been a hullabaloo about whether Tony Watt's going to be elevated to a position where suddenly he's on the park when you consider other players' goal-scoring records. But Robbie Nielsen's been singing his praises. whether he has a part to play. And there's Burke in the midfield, but of course he might find himself slightly further forward. That's the squad. What's your prediction then, Hugh? Because we haven't had that off you.
I think it's a narrow victory. Malta don't lose many goals. Scotland don't seem to score too many. So I would take. I mean, I'm all hope. I would. To be quite frank, I would just take a victory. I think it's so important just to get a victory, Peter.
Yeah.
So I would take a victory. I think it'll be a narrow one at best, a 2-goal victory.
Yeah, I'm going to go for 2. I think 2-0. I think we should be good enough to go there and get a 2-0 win.
Yeah, and you, I mean, listen, I think anything less than that, and then the Ross McCormack issues and all these things come back to really bite them.
Yeah,
Draws. I don't think a draw or anything like that will be tolerated.
No, certainly not.
No, it's got to win.
Yeah.
They certainly won't be going behind the goals and taking photographs if it's a draw to Malta.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think.
Okay, there you are. Feisty stuff. Let's keep our fingers crossed that Scotland get the win. It's the only time we can say we on a programme with sport in mind. We'll also say that for Andy Murray later on in the programme. Coming up next, we're going to talk about the week that's just gone past. As far as the transfer window is concerned, Hugh McDonald will give us his slant on some of the movers and shakers, ins and outs at clubs. Not a lot of money spent in Scotland, but nevertheless, Rangers will head to Linfield with Felix Senderos in their starting lineup, or at least in the squad ready to play in that friendly, getting ready for the big derby against Celtic next week. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Sports Week. Alan Ruff and the Herald's Hugh McDonald with me, Peter Martin, on the programme. We've been talking Scotland. It's a quiet weekend as far as domestic football. We'll discuss some of the Iron Brew Cup ties as well. But it's been an interesting week with the window closing, Hugh. Rangers, first of all, finally get Philippe Senderos in. He will get some game time, if not all, against Linfield in the friendly. And Mark Warburton mentioned that he hopes to have Martin Waghorn back ready with Senderos available for the game against Celtic next week.
I think it would be a big shout to start both against Celtic. He's in the corner, Warburton, over his centre backs, and that everybody's pressing him. Senderos. If Senderos plays decent tomorrow, I would say, I'll have to have him in, because the whole focus, is on Rangers centre backs. But I think the focus should be widened, and it's about how they set up and how the fullbacks go. But he's never going to change. Warburton has told us that. But I think it'd be a big shout to play somebody up front who's been out for so long, and to make a competitive debut for Senderos against Celtic.
Ruffy?
Yeah, I think it's a big shout, but I think in the situation, I think sometimes managers make decisions, and I think they will make the decision, but I think even Rangers know that where Celtic are going to get at them is the back. I think even the Rangers supporters are always worried when the ball comes into the box, so it might just be one of these games that you take a chance and hope that it works, and obviously if he gets 90 minutes tomorrow, it'll help him towards that. But he's played in massive games, obviously, with the teams he's been at, so I don't think that'll faze him, but I do think the pace, the Celtic front line might just cause him a problem if he's left on a 1-1.
Yeah, it's got the makings of a 4-4 game on the basis that there's two dodgy defences.
Yeah, and both managers who are very open about that they don't see their primary function as to defend, as to look. I mean, Celtic in a couple of games recently have, in fact, in just about every competitive game, have been cruising at one point and then lost goals or goal. They lost a goal against Aberdeen from a very kind of dominant position there, and the game has suddenly changed and become more nerve-tingling for them. So yeah, both teams who find it difficult to defend. But I think Celtic.
Does he play with one up though? I think Kenny Miller's a sept to start.
Well, see, I would play Miller instead of Waghorn up. I would start with him, because Waghorn coming into the team, you could play him wide. We know that. But I just think you don't want to start a Celtic Rangers game with somebody just coming back off a long-term injury. I really don't, and I don't think that. But Warburton has proved that as Alan's pointed out, he's a man that makes big decisions, so he might prove me wrong. I think the crucial thing for the whole game is how Rangers react to Sinclair, though. Yeah, I think Sinclair's key to everything in this game.
Would you throw Senderos in?
Yeah, I think I would,
Yeah.
yeah. I think he would have a presence in there. I think he would lift everybody else round about him. He would also give the supporters a wee bit of a lift as well. And then it depends how he starts the game. If he's going to win headers, if he's comfortable on the ball, he looks pretty in really good shape. So I think really it's just match fitness. That's all it's you would worry about with him.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as the window is concerned, eventually he mentioned he doesn't care if he's second choice. I don't really think it matters. I think Rangers had a list. Okay, you didn't get him, Lescott for whatever reason. You now move to the next guy. You offer him it. If you get him, great. If you don't, you move to the next guy.
No. Every club from Manchester City down to Annan's got a list, of their preferred targets, and they just move down them. And I think there's no. I mean, there'll be banter and all that about it, but I'll not bother Mark Warburton, and it certainly won't bother Philip Senderos.
Yeah. As far as Celtic are concerned, Hugh, you are one of these guys who's looked at it possibly not in the same light as some of the Celtic fans who looked at the transfer window and thought there should have been maybe at least one, maybe another signing coming in.
Well, I'm with you on that. I'd like to have seen another one. I'd like to have seen a decent, a good midfielder. But I think Celtic did really well over the summer. I think the acquisitions were strong and good, and have already proved to be so. I think all our acquisitions as well will be, including Dembele, who's a bench player at the moment. I think all their acquisitions will be significant players through the season. And they paid big money for them all. I mean, people say, there's only been a fee for Scott Sinclair, but in modern football, what they've been doing is they've been tanking out $1.5 million on wages on all these players, not just for this year, but for years to come. So I think there's been investment.
Yeah, you think there's been more investment than there has been the money that's coming in?
No, I mean, but that's not the way businesses work. I mean, businesses work. You don't spend all your money that coming in. It's there to be financially stable and to look to the future.
Yeah.
I think if you also got to remember the money that's been the manager's a marquee signing as well.
Yeah.
So you've got to factor him in. The bottom line for all this will be the bottom line. There's not going to be any kidology about this. It's not as what have they spent, what have they not spent, how much have they made. All comes out in the figures. In the figures, in December, there'll be the interim figures, and next June, there'll be the final year figures, and we'll precisely know what's went out and what's been spent.
And do you think there was a desire, Ruffy, to get that other marquee signing that was promised?
I think there was a desire between the supporters, who are watching it week in, week out.
But they're not buying them.
No, but they're the ones that are looking at it, and they're the ones that would like, as Hugh said, they're a quality midfield player, a playmaker, whatever you want to call him, a number 10. Because if Celtic go into the game next week and win whatever, nothing will be said. But if Rangers were to go in and win that game, the first thing the supporters are going to say is, why didn't you push the boat out and get somebody?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, that's when the pressure really comes on. Just on that point, Hugh, how many points? Ruffy thought maybe 4 points for Celtic in the Champions League, and then he changed his mind after a break and said maybe 1 point. What about yourself? Obviously, your estimations are far lower because you're quite happy with balancing the books.
Well, I'm happy about having a club that's financially solvent. I think that's. I mean, if you want to go down and spend money and have a punt with anything like that, I'll just wonder where that could all end up. Let me think where that might end up. I think the whole thing about having the club there and justifiable criticisms can be made because supporters always want money spent. Supporters always want that. What you've got to look at is, how's the club performing? Is it going to do? Is it stable financially? Does it have a business plan for the future? And you say, yes, it has. I think, of course, things will be judged on the part, but if you're talking about the Champions League and people are saying, get a player in to make a difference in the Champions League, give us peace. The only player that we can get in to give Celtic or a Scottish team, anybody in Scotland, a chance in the Champions League would be Lionel Messi. I mean, otherwise, you're going to get James McCarthy and he's going to make a difference whether you qualify.
I think James McCarthy was a red herring.
Complete red herring, but I'm just saying players of that, and that even, like Jack Wilshere. You're going to get Jack Wilshere in and you say, Celtic have him in the Champions League group. We pay $5 million in wages for him, and he wouldn't make a dent in what's going to happen to Celtic in the Champions League. Celtic Champions League, I agree with Ruffy, bit of luck, they win one home game and draw another. A bit of unluck, they draw one home game and lose every other one.
Yeah. Do you think they should have pushed the board out then? I mean, I look at the headlines and I say to myself, there's James Morrison, another name thrown in. It's no use after the horse is bolted, Ruffy.
But the thing about it was, if they'd lost that game 3-0, and they weren't in the Champions League, they would have pushed the boat out. There would have been players come in because they would have had to appease the fans. But they're in the Champions League. The money's going to come in the Champions League. So as Hugh said, they'll be sitting there saying, well, we don't need to spend for the Champions League. We probably don't have to spend for the SPFL. Let's keep the money, and if January comes and we need to spend it, we'll spend it.
And you look at the Champions League, again, what players, what would you have to come in to make the Champions League quality in the knockout stages a possibility?
I don't believe for a minute. Listen, this is the manager who said, you know, Celtic to the last 16.
He's got to say that.
Absolutely, but the only thing I would say to you on the evidence of Ruffy and myself watching Hapoel, I'll tell you what I would have bought before that window closed. A bus. A bus to park in front of the goal. Am I right, Ruffy? Defenders, you know, negativity, the odd ball over the top for a Tony Watt to run onto it. Other than that, you know, that's what you do. You have to work out how to beat your opponent who's stronger than you, because you're always, as Martin O'Neill used to say, punching above your weight. So when you do that, you park the bus, hit them on the counter-attack and hope that maybe you get a point. I mean, I think realistically, if Celtic get 4 points, the fans should be doing cartwheels
I agree.
and everything else.
I agree, but I mean, you've got already, when you say that, and I've written that, and so when you get pelters, you know, they talking down the Scottish champions. We're being realistic here. I honestly think the way this progression, even in the last 20 years, has gone in Scottish football was Champions League, the champions of Scotland were expected to get into the group stages, and then were called upon to qualify from them. You know, everybody was saying, oh, you've got to get to the last 16 and that. I think now, see, when the Scottish champions get into the Champions League group stages, that's job done. Everybody takes a sigh, no matter what Brendan says, because he's got to say that. Yeah. I think everybody will just say, well, that's us in. That's the prize.
Just want to check, were you backing Gordon Strachan at the point that he got them into the last 16?
Oh, I mean,
okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
That was the time, but that was the time period when he used to stand and fail on results. You know, he was judged on results at Celtic, and he got out of groups as well. Absolutely. He actually qualified then, so you could actually praise him. But when he doesn't qualify, I reserve the right not to praise him.
Right, there you are. Okay. See how I got him there? He was ready. That was him. He's on the ropes. And then he came back off fighting. And there's more to come with Andy Murray and Ruffy next.